Hello everyone, Australian Motorcycle News, Peter Bom here with the highlights from what happened today, the Saturday in Australia, Phillip Island, the MotoGP race. We had the qualifying and we had the sprint race. Highlights for the qualifying was for me Jack Miller on the front row, that I didn't see that coming, but the pole position from Fabio Quartararo on the Yamaha for me, that is already, I was thinking maybe he can be on the front row, but having two Yamahas on the front row, because the pole position was basically from the first lap on yesterday. Everybody, you had to put your money on Marco Bezzecchi on the Aprilia, because every lap he did, whether it was race pace or he went for a soft rear tire, was always super fast. But in the end, it turns out that the Yamahas, it's not the bike you become world champion with, but the good thing from the Yamaha is exactly what you need on Phillip Island. It's a bike that is super stable in fast flowing corners. So it doesn't have enough horsepower. You don't fight for wins with the Yamaha, but you can do really good lap time with it. So, and yeah, a lot better than I was expecting them to be. That was the highlight for the qualifying, having two Yamahas on the front row, definitely special. Problem in qualifying was for Brad Binder and Pecco. They both got the penalty of moving 3 places backwards on the grid for riding slow on the racing line during the qualifying sessions. And in case of Pecco, that was just silly. He should have paid more attention going into Miller corner, that actually Marco Bezzecchi was coming after him. But in the case of Brad Binder, I almost felt sorry for him, because he was already 3 corners in a row looking backwards as much as he could. He was slow, but he didn't wanted to hold anybody up. So around Siberia, you saw him looking backwards, and then it's on the way to the hay shed, probably up to lucky height. He was all the time looking backwards, and he saw somebody coming. He went in the grass, on the curbs, but then in the end, yeah, he was just unlucky, because he tried it, but still he got the penalty. In the end, it didn't matter, because both of them didn't really have a good pace anyway. Yeah. Then we had the highlight from the sprint. I mean, the results from the sprint: Marco Bezzecchi wins it for Raul Fernandez, and then comes Pedro Acosta, Jack Miller, Fabio Gianantonio, Alex Marquez, Fabio Quartararo in P7, the man on pole. The story behind the sprint races, first of all, the start was a bit chaos, and the chaos in the start comes in Phillip Island a little bit because the turn 1 is not fast. I mean, it's not a lot of braking. When the riders arrive from the start into turn 1, they barely need to brake. That's a problem, because the way the current bikes are prepared for the start, the front and the rear is really locked in a super low position and will only unlock if you brake longer hard with the front brake, which you normally don't do on Phillip Island. So teams had to decide where to put the front and the rear of the bike during the whole shot. They can decide how deep in the stroke from the suspension they want to have the bike. Yeah, so that is the reason that it was a bit of a moving left and right, up and down in turn 1 and turn 2. That was it. But then in the end, the real surprise, it's not even really, well, yeah, for me the surprise was how easy Marco Bezzecchi could win this sprint race. I mean, let's go here to this picture. I choose this picture we got from Aprilia, basically because it's a beautiful picture showing how much heat comes from the bike. From everywhere, not just from the exhaust, from the whole of the bike, all that heat coming over the curbs, rear wheel there, front wheel a little bit on the ground, looking where he's really sure where he wants to go, hanging off enough but not too much. The faster it is, the more I start to like the Aprilia. The Aprilia is still not a very complete bike compared to the Ducati, but when the things come together, when we go to a track like, it's quite a special track, Phillip Island, that shoots the Aprilia so well, it's unbelievable how much faster than everybody it can be in race pace, and that's why he won the race. He won the race for his teammate, not teammate, but the other Aprilia rider, Raul Fernandez, who sort of luckily was leading the race because he didn't make any mistakes through the first 2 corners. And it was interesting to see how quickly Bezzecchi could catch up to him, then make a mistake, lose a lot of time, come back to him immediately again, and then win superiorly. He needs to do that because tomorrow in the main race, he will have to serve 2 long lap penalties from what he did 2 weeks ago when he ran into the back of Marc Marquez in the first lap of the race. So, but the pace for Marco Bezzecchi in the Aprilia is such that you still cannot rule him out for the win, or that's highly unlikely, before the podium tomorrow, because it's a long race And if you have a really superior pace, you can do 2 long laps where we reckon he will be. Aprilia themselves said 2 long laps will cost us more or less 5 seconds in total, which is normally impossible to go to the podium with that. But if you have such superior pace, I don't know. I'm really curious to see what's going to happen tomorrow in the sprint with Bezzecchi and Aprilia. The other guy that was for me also impressive was the third guy today, Pedro Acosta with the KTM. Just like 2 weeks ago, using the superior engine and being a very professional rider. So passing the Yamahas and then making himself wide on the right moments, make sure nobody can overtake me. Because basically behind him he had a couple of riders that were all probably on their own faster than him, but he was just leading them. So really, really good ride. Jack Miller finishing 4th, super performance. Obviously we want to see him on the podium here in Australia, but P4 on the Yamaha, best Yamaha, better than Fabio Quartararo. Fabio dropped a lot, and I later saw in the result that he was on the other front tire. There was just 2 front tires that he had to choose from, the medium or the hard, and I think Fabio chose the wrong one here. There's also drama, a lot of drama. First of all with the Hondas. Yesterday one engine blew up, today another engine blew up. 2 engines blowing up from a company like Honda that is such a proud builder of engines is really shocking. But it's also not a complete surprise. They found quite some extra horsepower lately. Yeah, and that the next step you have to work on is reliability. Having the horsepower is one thing, but keeping everything inside the engine is another thing. Long time ago we saw Honda engines blowing up so far. The other drama is Pecco Bagnaia, of course. We have to speak about Pecco Bagnaia. I don't know how he actually got into Q2, but he was. He qualified on the 3rd row, not so bad. But then in the race he completely fell apart again. And what we see from the body language and the movements and the action inside the Ducati pit box now is starting to get, we really see some tension going to the surface. Like 3 sessions in a row, yesterday 2 sessions, and this morning Pecco goes out with one bike, immediately comes back, immediately makes it clear that bike's unrideable, goes to the other bike. Is only there a couple of laps that are good, but does do many laps that are way off the pace. Obviously very unhappy. Everybody is very puzzled in the Ducati box. And yesterday we could see Davide Tedeschi, the team manager. He didn't even want to listen anymore to him. Just immediately walked out of the garage. So and obviously this is unavoidable. If the results are so puzzling, so up and down, more down than up, then there will come some friction between the crew chief, the rider, the team manager, the rider. It's unbelievable how Pecco needs a lot of things to be exactly perfect, and then he's super good. But if one of them are not there, and one of them on the GP25 means you immediately are in all sorts of trouble, but then he really falls apart. You know, a world champion like him, on a bad day you still finish 6, 7, 9, maybe 10, but just completely, you know, he was far last. Only Marc Marquez's replacement rider, Pirro, the test rider from Ducati, was polite enough to be even slower than Pecco Bagnaia. So both factory Ducatis last and far last. That's an unbelievable result. That's the shocking thing for me that happened today. Let's see tomorrow if they find something, if he finds something for tomorrow. Then we have the Moto3 and the Moto2 and the Australia riders. And yeah, congratulations to you guys. We have Joao Kelso on pole position in Moto3, and it was not a given one. He was just strong all weekend, convincingly on pole, which is, you know, really good for Australian riders. We see what the race tomorrow will bring. I really hope that he can also this time put a front row position into maybe a win or a podium even. Jacob Roulston in P13, still not ruled out for a good result as well. And then there's Moto2, Senna Aegis, not on pole, but second. And this is the track where he did his first podium last year. He really has his mojo back, and, you know, so everything's possible for you guys in Moto3 and Moto2. Yeah, and again, Jack Miller for me was the highlight in the MotoGP for the Australia riders, because being on the front row, finishing 4th in the race, he actually went from Q1 to Q2, and then in the beginning of Q2 he went out with a used soft tire, and with that tire I think he should have finished P8 or P9 if that was his best shot, but actually he got a new soft and then put it on the front row. So yeah, really interesting first day here in Phillip Island. Tomorrow the race, as everybody will know by now, otherwise you heard it from me, everything is postponed 1 hour because of the weather conditions that we expect. So the other thing we can expect is, because it's not a sprint race, it's a longer race, it's double the race, that not many people, probably nobody, will start on the soft rear tire, where today everybody was on the soft rear tire. This always changes a lot the dynamics for the main race, and some people will certainly be a lot better on the medium rear, which is the harder option here, and some people will just not manage to do that. So a lot to look forward for tomorrow's race. I'll do. Hope you enjoy this. I'll be back with you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.